That's what it feels
We
like.
need a break of this weather. I'm tired
April
of it.
showers bring May snow.
Yeah.
Someone posted that on Facebook. Thank you very much. Not.
Yeah, but how's the husband feeling?
Well, he gets his MRI tomorrow, so hopefully we'll find something out in the next
She's
few
still
days.
having problems.
Oh, he's still dizzy. He can't.
Ooh.
He can't stand up. I mean, without being dizzy. Yeah, and they checked him for inner ear infections. They gave him vertigo medication, and nothing helped. So.
He didn't hurt his eardrums and stuff with music, did he?
I don't know, but I personally think either it's a really deep ear infection that they can't see just by looking at it the way they have been, or
It puts you off
maybe
balance.
MS.
Huh.
He's got all the symptoms of MS.
Oh, ain't good. Jeez.
Hey, Gab, how are you? Not too bad.
Debbie, how are you?
Okay. Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Look how tan she is.
Oh, that's right. How many days are we down there? Not that long.
A week. Well, we drove, so 2 days down, 2 days back, so like 3.
Where'd you stop? Around Chattanooga?
Yeah. Chattanooga, Marietta, Georgia, all the way down. Chattanooga, all the way back up.
Where in Florida were you at?
Kissimmee.
Okay.
David's brother lives there.
Oh,
We went to visit him. But we spent 1 day in Melbourne, the beach.
That's on the west side.
What time?
It's on the east. It's on the Pacific.
I might have written that in my book.
Kissimmee was
Hardware. And this is the old McKay's, right?
Kissimmee's in the middle, but
just north
Melbourne
of
we
Orlando.
went. Yeah, but Melbourne where we went was on the Pacific coast.
Beautiful.
That was freezing.
Jane, you're the
It
woman.
was kind of cold. Yeah.
That's a cool idea.
I expect it would be a lot warmer.
It was warm. The day we were there, the water was cold. It was like 88.
Yeah, you're roasting in the sand. And then you
Yeah.
oh, this disparity.
On Main Street.
We're talking about next year going to taking the camper down to Myrtle Beach. There's this one campground there called like Ocean Mix or something. Literally right on the ocean.
Oh, that would be fun.
Selected and we're gonna do that one. So it'll take forever to get there. Towing a camper, we only do like 55, 60.
Yeah,
Especially going to the mountains.
What company?
it's true. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, it'll be worth it once you get there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Very end.
I was like looking at him. What are you
I
talking
kick
about?
myself now for not taking the van.
Usually we fly. This was the first time, long time ever. I really like driving.
I don't mind it.
I like it.
My sister did it. She's like, I'm not doing it anymore. She's like, they flew one side same thing, and then they do it for one just to try and save some money, and they're like, no, we're not doing it. It's not worth it. I don't mind it so much.
I didn't mind it. It was fun.
It's a lot of, there's a lot of flat places which are kind of boring, but you know, as long as it's without construction. It's minimal. I mean, I like driving in general.
Good.
So I'm just wondering, where do you park your cars at?
No, that one's just there for a couple days. It's stored at CubeSmart.
Oh, but that's the one you bought.
Yeah, that's the one we bought. Yeah, I brought it home that day because I unloaded the other camper, so the garage was just looks like a bomb. And then so we put in most of it back. So now I'm gonna go get it tomorrow because then our summer only allows 3 days to load, 3 days to unload.
Really?
It's gotta be gone. Yeah. There's nowhere feasible for us to park it, even if there wasn't that.
That
Fences
seems
aren't wide enough.
huge.
Everybody's backyard is not big enough.
That's gonna be nice, though. All the creature comforts at home.
This was Kelly's purchase. We saw it at a camper show like 2 months ago. Like, this is the one where I have not picked one thing that I did not like about it. She walked in and was like, the kitchen's too small, or I don't like the bathroom layout, or the kids don't have, you know, this one. She's like, checks all the boxes.
Did you sell the other ones?
We traded it in.
Did you?
Yeah, we traded it in. So this one has like the outdoor kitchen. That's like the only thing I really need. She says I was like, I had to set up everything outside, like the table, and then I bring the hot plates and plug it in the extension cords. This one, open it up, everything's right there, we're good to go. So that's pretty cool. That's like the one thing I
He sold it
wanted.
to this guy.
But So this one, it's got all the bathroom. They're just small. So anyways, I mean, like, if you're sitting down on the toilet, you can't really shut the door away.
Right.
This one, it's almost like a full-size bathroom. Full-size standard shower in there and everything.
Does it have the island bar in the middle?
It does have an island in it. Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Oh, yeah, you're going to have fun.
You know where everybody in the campground will be.
I put the link to it. Like the one they have at General RV right now. Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
I'll call the meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Alsop.
Here.
Cruikshank.
Here.
Hypo.
Here.
Shield.
Here.
Musgrave.
Here.
Rankin.
Here.
McKenna.
Here.
We don't have our name tags.
Actually, they're in
Run it.
on front. They're right on the front of the table.
They're right in here. Look.
They're on the.
Isn't that pretty?
I don't. No, he does.
Yeah, it's right there.
Where's Waldo? Is that the game we're playing?
That better?
Who's on first?
Right. Consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the village council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately immediately after the consent agenda approval in its normal sequence on the regular agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion and support. Roll call.
Hypo.
Yes.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
Yes.
Alsop.
Yes.
Cruikshank.
Yes.
McKenna.
Yes. Public comment. Members of the public can address council once recognized by the chairperson. Comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes. Council may extend this time by up to an additional 4 minutes by a majority vote. Prior to addressing council, members of the public shall state their name and address for the record. Time's up. New business. Consideration of requests for 2018-19 fiscal year budget study session.
So actually, we have two items under old business.
Oh, I'm
if
sorry.
you want to do those.
There they are. DDA appointments.
Yeah, so actually this was discussion that occurred at the last council meeting. The issue of appointments to the Downtown Development Authority Board. This issue was actually handled by the DDA Board in December of 2017, and then Council approved a resolution clarifying the DDA Board member terms. So if you'll look on the second page, which is actually the page of the resolution, you will see that the village president would change in conjunction with the term of that office, and then every year after that, 2 members would rotate off the DDA. Well, their term would end from the DDA board, and then that would be the opportunity for new appointments if the village council president chose to do so. But that rotation of 2 members off the board every year complies with the Public Act which governs DDAs and their appointment of board members. And so this procedure, prior to it being presented to the village council and the DDA board in December, was reviewed by village attorney Mike Gilner. And while in fact the DDA terms were out of sync prior, by result of authorization of this resolution beginning with this year, all the terms of the DDA will be in sync. And if anybody were to resign prior to the end of their term, then whoever was appointed would go into their spot and would just finish their term, just as members do on council. And so as far as staff is concerned, this matter is concluded, and it was based upon the resolution that you have in front of you.
questions or comments by council members?
There's no other action required.
Nope, good. Good to go.
Item 2 on old business, Waterworks Building Progress Update.
George Cullis, 601 East Maple Street. Over the past month, we've had spring break, and Steve McGee, who's not with us this evening, was off for the last week in March, and I and my wife were out of town this last week, first week of April. So it made some of the scheduling a little difficult, but we managed to get in 2 meetings. One was yesterday in Lansing, where we met with the State Historical Preservation Office and had a conversation on the property. And then today we were able to meet with Steve McGee and Brian Clausen and Tom Mizuk, if I'm pronouncing that name right, I think. He is an engineer from Lopez Engineering, which was formerly of Davisburg and has moved over on Dixie Highway. And we actually had access to the building, and he is doing an engineering report, which we will have available for you at the next meeting in regards to the foundation of the building. He felt that the term he used today was that it was adequate, and that he would have the details written down, and he is going to, in that report, give us steps 1, 2, and 3 so that we can get the door and the floor so that it becomes accessible for the rest of the programming going down the way. So that's the report that I have for you on that side of it. And then Mr. Hoffman also met with Mr. McGee today. I'll let you do that part.
Yeah, I think it was very productive. Bob Hoffman volunteered, and I also want to add that I didn't get to go anywhere this winter while everybody's on vacation. But I think it was a very productive meeting, and Brian came out there and he helped us, and Steve McGee, and we're laying down, as George said, steps so we can move this thing along. And the first thing is to make sure that anybody who goes into the building for whatever reason, that it's safe. So we're going to come up with a schedule, time frame, and a list of what steps we need to take and in what order, like I say, to move the project along. But it was a very productive meeting today, and that's all we have to report for now. We'll see you at the next meeting, and we'll have more of an update, and we'll have the engineer's report. And then hopefully by then we might even have some of the final drawings from Oakland County. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. New business, consideration request for 2018-19 fiscal year budget study session. Mr. Walker?
Yeah, so at the last council meeting, we talked about scheduling a budget study session on a Saturday so that we could complete the rest of the departments that have not been covered in previous meetings through tonight, as well as to review some of the other departments that were covered. By that time, whichever Saturday is chosen, we should have a better picture of exactly what our revenues are going to be. We're still receiving them on a daily basis. That's what happens this time of year. That's a little bit of the difficulty in producing a budget, is because we don't have concrete numbers on our revenue, but we're close. So it's time now to pick a date. I chose this date just based upon some feedback from a couple of council members as far as their availability. On May the 5th, both Councilman Scheel and myself are committed in the morning, so we could do something later in the afternoon, but in the morning to a Veterans Appreciation at the Moose Lodge. On April the 28th, I believe Councilman Heupel has a schedule conflict. And it was brought to my attention tonight that I think the Masonic Run may be on this April 10th. So really, staff, I mean, we're at the beck and call of council. If there's a different date that council wants to choose, we're fine with that. If you want to do a off council week, Tuesday, Thursday night, we're fine with that. Whatever council wants to do. We have found in the past that it seems to flow well if we can do it all in one day, because we can cover the entire budget and we can wrap everything up and not have to, you don't have to wonder what's going to be presented at the next meeting. But it's totally up to you. We have May the 12th out here, but we do recognize that there is a conflict with the community event, so I'll leave it up to council. Whatever date you want to choose, we will make ourselves available.
So what dates are we unavailable for so far? The 5th, the 12th, and the 28th, is that it? Jeez.
Those are on Saturday, aren't they?
They are all Saturdays.
When does this have to be approved? Which
The
meeting?
first meeting in June. The
June?
only thing we like to do is we like to do it early enough so that any changes that council makes to the budget or that we work on as a team and make, that gives the clerk treasurer enough time to make those adjustments to prepare the final budget for approval in June.
What kind of times, what day, what kind of time would you open up this meeting, Jerry?
Well, I mean, we usually do it from 8:30 till between 12 and 1, just depending upon the conversation. But, I mean, certainly we can do it at any time.
Is Sunday available for anybody? Is that a possibility? Sundays?
I work on Saturdays.
What about Sundays?
Friday, Saturday, Sundays I work.
So we're very flexible as staff. I mean, I think I would request on behalf of my department heads that we stay away from Sundays, only because we have to have a day off and for worship purposes.
Fridays?
It sounds like a off-council meeting night is probably the best option for everybody else, right?
How about Fridays?
I'm gone Friday,
I
Saturday,
work
Sunday.
Friday.
Yeah, we all do Fridays.
Can we figure it out?
I mean, that doesn't matter. We could do an evening on a Friday if everybody's, but staff would have to come in because the offices and all them are closed too, so they're driving in regardless.
Yeah, that would be fine. Yeah, we're driving in regardless, so
Yeah.
it really doesn't matter.
I would suggest a Tuesday off council, maybe the first.
First and the third.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we were to do, we'd have to do the 3rd of April, which is the 17th next Tuesday. I don't know if that's quick enough. That's maybe too soon. May 1st.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
May 1st and 3rd.
Oh, I see. I'm unavailable on the 3rd, but I'm available 1st and 2nd.
I'm available first and second.
What about the 19th? It still leaves
I'm out of town.
And I work.
19th.
I work every other Saturday, so the 12th was my off Saturday, which fit real nicely into my schedule. So the 5th and the 19th, I'm out.
How about the 12th?
If everybody does on the 12th, maybe I can catch up with Jerry and
The
do
12th,
any
I'm not
daytime,
available.
Jerry, and
Yeah,
go
the
through that.
12th, Dave and Bob are not available.
Is there anything wrong with doing May 1st and 2nd? Doing it Tuesday, Wednesday night? The 2nd will be probably a much slower or faster meeting, I should say, because we cover 2-3 hours in there, and then maybe an hour and a half on the 2nd night.
I think you have a parks
What
meeting.
time? What day? Dave, what day?
I do have a parks meeting
May
that night.
1st. You have a meeting on the 2nd, Chris?
It's a Wednesday, yeah. First Wednesday of the month.
Oh, I thought it was okay.
What day you
What if we do the 1st and then see where we come up with then, and then schedule a secondary day?
What time would you want to get together on the 1st?
Or we could do, I mean, what about Monday and Tuesday?
I would
Mondays are
be
good
fine
for
with
me.
Monday or Tuesday as well.
What about the 15th and 17th?
Open.
Tuesday and
15th?
Thursday.
15th? Oh, of May
15th
you're
and
talking?
17th.
Okay.
What days, Deb?
15th and 17th.
Of
It's a
May.
Tuesday and Thursday.
I'm
Tuesday
out-
and Thursday of May.
I'm out of town the 17th.
That's the same week. Shoot.
Yes. I say do the
I
1st.
like
Tuesday, when
Dave's idea. Just
Or
do
Tuesday, Thursday.
schedule the 1st and see where we go from there.
Yeah, see how
gives
much-
us gives us the rest of the month to pick a
15th and
another day.
17th?
Yeah, absolutely. And because we have already had 3 study sessions, tonight will be the 4th one. I mean, it is possible that we could conclude on one night with a 3 or 3.5 hour session.
What's the earliest anybody could do on the 1st?
6 o'clock.
6.
5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 3.
6? So you can do 6?
6?
6.
What time, Dave?
Okay, May the 1st at 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay. We will put out the proper notices. We'll hold it in the community meeting room as it lends to a little better
Yeah.
working atmosphere for a study session.
We can just eat as we're going, or do we want to not eat that night?
You know what? We'll have something available.
Okay.
Maybe we can
Chip cookies?
talk to Hungry Howie's.
Yes, chocolate chip cookies.
I'll throw in $5 for pizza.
Yeah, well, I'll pitch in if you want.
Okay.
That's at 6 o'clock, right? Or
Yes,
6:30?
6 o'clock. Budget meeting, May
May
1st,
Right?
6 o'clock.
Tuesday.
I have a ton of coupons for Hungry Howie's. Buy one,
Yeah, so do we.
buy a large and get free medium.
Okay, we'll schedule something. I'll be in contact. Okay, thank you for that date.
Thanks, guys. Works out for me.
Next item is a special event, Andy's Place Patio.
So this item normally would be in the consent agenda, but as you recall, when we were talking about special events earlier in the year, we stated that any special event permit that was turned in not at least 60 days in advance, as is stated on the application, would come in front of council for consideration under new business. So this really, though, is the same exact special event that they do every single year. There is no issue with the event. We have not had a history of any issues with the event. So from a staff perspective, we would recommend approval. However, it was in new business because it was not turned in prior to 60 days.
I make a motion that we okay Andy's Place.
Support.
Motion support. Any further discussion?
I don't think we have a big issue with that, but I have talked, a couple residents have reached out to me last year and saying that the music that they play on their outdoor speakers is a little bit too loud, especially in the evenings.
It's the same day as car show. His place. I mean, he's busy with like
We
we
do
are.
our Friday night open mics
Oh.
and
Yeah,
stuff like
Friday
Wednesday
they have
too.
a dinner
Yeah, but I
set
don't-
and then open mic on Saturdays.
Oh, okay,
so-
I didn't know
but
that.
that can be controlled from inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we can just bring that up to them and.
Yeah,
them
certainly
after
we'll
we're
mention it
doing
to
it.
them. Any outdoor music, I don't recall it going though much past 9 or 9:30, but certainly we'll mention it to them. No, I think it's I think it's a great point. We did receive a few phone calls in the office also, and we talked through it. And the Chief Story had an officer check on it, and never found an issue where any action had to be taken.
Friday nights they ended at 10:30 and
Okay.
Saturdays they ended at 11.
Outdoor music?
Well, it's from the people that are playing inside. It's
Yeah.
piped in and they can
Okay,
hear it out there, but they don't have to do it all the time either. That's by choice.
sure. Okay.
Motion support, roll call vote.
Cruikshank.
Yes.
Hypo.
Yes.
Shield.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Rankin.
Yes.
Hulseth.
Yes.
McKinney.
Yes. Motion carried. Budget study session.
Yeah, so the first budget that we have scheduled for presentation tonight is that of the DDA. So Director Hughes will present her budget. And this was presented to the DDA board last night for their consideration, and it was approved to move forward to the council, recognizing they still may make some minor changes in the budget, as they're still also in budget formulation period, but this is the crux of what the budget is so far.
So what you'll see on the budget here is what we'd call like a boilerplate of last year. So everything is quite similar. A couple of things that we've done in the previous year, we held 2 Ladies' Night Out events. We recently held a volunteer fair. There were some tree grates that were added, some beautification efforts. Quite a bit's been done around the downtown. But if you look at the budget, there's not a whole lot of change from last year to this year. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
Question of council members?
What page are you on, Chris?
You're expecting less income this year for the 2017-18 budget? Or, I'm sorry, that's what the current is 92, but it's down from 110 previously?
Correct.
Is there anything is it just TIF taxes that are the big change there?
No, basically it was just TIF taxes and some other revenue that was received. As you can see in the 2018-19 requested budget, those are part of that revenue figures that we don't have. We believe that our revenues are going to be above $92,000 this year, but we'll have those finalized when we come together on May 1st.
I think the major difference between the 2 years is whatever the transfer from the fund balance, that $16,000 is the big difference.
Yeah. And that was for the tree grate project, actually, that they did that year.
Hey, Jerry, on the Women's Night Out, does that cost us $6,896?
So it actually, doesn't cost us anything. The event is self-funded, so through sponsorship and advertising that we recoup those costs from the local merchants and folks that advertise with us. So that costs zero taxpayer dollars.
Good. Thank you.
Any big changes that were going to be requested for the next year, as in event changes that you guys are thinking of outside of Ladies' Night, or downtown kiosks or anything like that that's just being discussed at the DDA level?
There will be the one kiosk that will need to be replaced through the
Clock tower?
Yes. But other than that, not anything that we're looking as far as any big changes to increase the budget.
Is the clock going to be coming out of this, I take it, or?
No, insurance, I would assume.
Yeah, so insurance will cover the majority of the costs. There are some improvements we plan on making, such as placing the clock on a raised pedestal, so that if this incident repeats itself again, the vehicle will come into contact with the pedestal instead of the clock directly to lessen any damage to it. And then there are some other improvements, similar tree grate and tree replacement along Battle Alley that the DDA has done the last couple of years along Saginaw and then along Broad Street as we continue the beautification project.
All right.
Questions or comments?
None on DDA, no, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. No approval needed on this item either. The next budget that we have in place for you is that of the Carl Ricker Community Center. Center Director Tony Brinker is away from the village tonight, and so Board Chair Joe Mishler is going to present this budget briefly. Oh, sorry.
And CIS is on tonight.
Ouch.
Well, let me look at page 1 of 400.
4 minutes starts.
Wait a minute, that's for public comment.
Go.
Joe Mishler, 620 Academy Road. Yes, we are requesting $10,000 in the budget, and this year we are refocusing our efforts. We have to do a lot more marketing. We have to do a lot more outreach, and we are looking to do that a couple of different ways. We're going to create a brochure for the center that we can take with us to a lot of different events. We want to upgrade the equipment in the auditorium, microphones, stands, a cabinet, that kind of stuff. We're also looking at doing a lot more signage, especially in the building. We are also looking at a website, which we desperately need to help us do our marketing, and we're also asking for funds for various promotions, like a biannual newsletter, flyers for different events, that sort of thing. This is a real big change from in the past year or past couple of years. We realize we need to get out there. We have a great facility. There's a lot. It has a lot to offer, and surprisingly, not very many people know about it. So we are going to do. We're stealing a page from the Veterans Center, and we're going to go out and do a whole lot of research or outreach. And to do that, we need a brochure. We need some other things that will enable us to get there. We want to see us become more functional, and if you've been coming around and noticed that there's been an increase in activity here over the last 4 or 5 months, so we want to see that go up, and we're going to work on marketing and outreach.
Is there a new mission statement?
We have a new mission statement. Do you want me to read it?
Yes, please.
I don't want to take up my 4 minutes.
I was just kidding on the briefly. Well, kind of.
It's all right. I'll get
We'll
even.
suspend the clock while you read something.
The mission of the Carl Richter Community Center is to provide recreation, fitness, special events, community space, and wellness opportunities for for the citizens of the surrounding Holly area. We strive to enhance healthy lifestyles and well-being in the Holly community in a safe and welcoming environment. And our core values are excellence, inclusivity, integrity, growth, and community.
Very nice.
Excellent. Now, I think you guys definitely need some funding to get that website going, and that seemed like the result of the meeting between the council, at least for the first meeting between the community board and the council. Then the second meeting, we kind of got down some more details, which was great. So I totally support that going forward. That will absolutely help out in getting the outreach going.
I second that.
Yeah.
Any further comments or questions? Thank you, Joe.
That was 3 minutes.
Yeah, very, very good.
No carryovers.
That might possibly be your shortest presentation in
NCIS.
history, but it was very nice. Very nice. So the last budgets that we have, I'll just ask you to sit back and settle in. Brian Clausen will do the DPW budgets. Brian actually has a very tedious job this time of year. He has a total of 9 budgets of various sizes that he puts together. You already heard from him once when we talked water and sewer delivery, for lack of a better word, previously. Tonight he'll cover the 5 budgets that you have before you.
The first one is Public Works, and you'll see there's no major changes in that. There's extra reduction, and that's because last year we requested a new building, a heated building, and that was completed, so you'll see there's roughly about a $100,000 reduction in the budget from that building. So if there's any questions on DPW, we can move on, because it's pretty much the same, slight
No
increases.
major purchases planned?
Not in DPW, no.
If there's no further comments or questions, you want to move on, Brian?
The next one is Parks. You'll see we have project costs added there. We've got $17,000 in this year's budget. We're going to wrap up some projects before July, and then the next year's budget. Last year, the Parks and Rec Committee started Music in the Park at Crapel Park. They'd like to continue that and look at some improvements in some of the other parks. There's a walkthrough the end of this month to go through those, and I think Chris can elaborate on some of the other ideas that the commission is batted around and see what they want to use that money for too.
Well, yeah, there were some other. Well, one of the big items that we'd like to do is get an engineering report for the possibility of putting the boardwalk out onto Bevins Lake that's been talked about and kicked around for 30 years. So that's a big one. We'd like to do some retaining wall work at Crapel Park, and the Cyclone Beautification Committee has got some some work that's going to be done. I don't think that's going to require any village funds. I think Rick's going to be doing some fundraising for those items. And there's some repairs that need to be done at Ganshaw, just maintenance at Waterworks, where we'd like to do some improvements to the parking lot at Waterworks, repaint the bridge or stain or whatever it is. And that's all I can think of off the top of my head. So that'll punch a little hole in our little budget there.
Yeah, it will, but I mean, so during the real lean years, you know, from probably 2008 on through just about a year or two ago, the parks budget was almost eliminated from any improvements or projects. So this is a welcome change to moving forward and adding some of these quality of life issues back to the village.
Yeah. I think one thing we should look at in the next couple of years is kind of beefing up the Waterworks entrance into the waterway and kind of just some work around there, just because of the Headwaters Trails, you know, certification or whatever they want to call that.
Right.
You know, so those kind of things are really kind of amping up the waterway there. I think would be great.
Yep. Oh, and then another project we are working on is the fence around the play structure at Lakeside. That's another.
That should come out of this year's budget. So.
Yeah, Brian was looking at some benches.
Any further comments or questions on the park budget?
The next one is cemetery, and the only thing that major change you'll see there is a landscape trailer. Currently we have a heavy duty trailer, 10,000 pound axle trailer that we use for hauling our small roller around for doing road repairs. They use that for hauling mowers around. and sometimes there's conflict during the summer if we're doing road work and trying to move mowers around. They have to drive them around town, which causes a lot of wear and tear on the mowers. So I think we can get one for about $3,500, and then there's some upgrades that need to be done in some of the buildings up there. So that's the only major change you'll see there.
Brian, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
If when you're getting your bids for your trailer, stop at Iron Man.
Okay.
Inside the building.
All right.
Are there any plans for doing fence repairs at Lakeside at the cemetery? Have we gotten any of those done? I know that there was some trees that had fallen on the perimeter fence on the south side, I believe.
Yeah, somebody actually drove through there one time. We had a police report. Nobody got there.
Well, like literally drove a car through it?
Yeah, drove a car through it. They damaged the vehicle, but they were able to get away. So,
wow.
I think they were spinning out at the boat launch and missed.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So yeah, we can look at those too. The gate, when we open that up for the 4th, could use some help too. So.
Yeah, I know some of the fencing around the cemetery is in rough shape, to put it mildly.
And one other project, just wanted to talk about Cemetery and Lakeside Park in that area, is we're evaluating the feasibility of taking down that 6-foot cyclone fence that runs along the parking lot, separating the parking lot and the park, replacing it with a more friendly, inviting, decorative type fence.
Good, yeah, because a lot of that area is kind of delineated by bushes anyways.
Correct.
And the last one is buildings and grounds. And if you look at that one, in the project costs, they have part of it's for an overhead door at the DPW. That's the older building. The south side or the north side of that building, we put an overhead door in a couple years ago. The south side of the building still has the big, large barn doors. So when you open up one, you go through the entryway to the building itself. So to try to cut down on the breeze and make the clean up the appearance of that, we put another overhead door in the front. And the bathroom inside the DPW, we've had a water leak from a toilet, so we need to do some remodeling in there. And then the capital improvements is the other part of the door, and the salt barn, the sheeting on that is starting to rust away, so we need to look at replacing that.
I almost hate to get rid of the barn doors on the front of that building. Those have been around for 100 years.
Yeah, they're just not very efficient.
Well, I mean, they're probably not easy to use, but they sure do look cool.
Maybe we could relocate them to the corner of Sherman.
Oh, yeah. I'll build a big barn to put them on.
Right.
How about that barn across the street from you?
And there you go. Yeah, I'm sure he could use some barn doors.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, thank you.
Public comment. Members of the public can address council once recognized by the chairperson. Comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes. Council may extend this time by up to an additional 4 minutes by a majority vote. Prior to addressing council, members of the public shall state their name and address for the record. Public comment is open. Rick.
Rick Powers, 816 Hollybush Court. I just want to announce that we're going to be having a Veterans Appreciation Day at the Holly Moose. It will be a breakfast. We have 6 area veterans that are going to be receiving awards for their service to the community, Joe being one of them. And we welcome all. It's open to the public. It's a great breakfast. It's $8 for non-veterans. All veterans eat for free. That's Cinco de Mayo, May 5th at 9 o'clock until 11 o'clock. We'll have a guest speaker, and we'll make a real nice breakfast out of it, nice day out of it. So if you can attend, please be there.
And also a guest dishwasher.
A guest dishwasher. 2 of them from the council. Ryan and Jerry will be working in the kitchen that day.
What day is that on?
Saturday morning, 9 o'clock.
May 5th.
Yeah, and when we did it in November, it was really an outstanding breakfast. And this will be a fundraiser for the Veterans Outreach. So all proceeds will be going to the Veterans Outreach program. And They'll have a silent auction, 50-50 raffle, and that sort of thing. And we're hoping to raise $1,500 to $2,000 for the Veterans Outreach. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Mr. Cullis, Supervisor Cullis.
Yes, George Cullis, 601 East Maple Street. A couple of things. First of all, Mr. Walker misspoke a little earlier. The Masonic Lodge is hosting their 5K run. Happens to be on May 5th, the same time that you're having your breakfast. That'll be the third year that they run that.
12th.
Pardon?
The 12th, I have.
Oh, is it the 12th?
The 12th.
Oh.
So actually, it gives me great pleasure in
you
stating
said the 10th.
Supervisor Cullis misspoke.
But you said that. I did misspeak, but you said the 10th, so either way. So it is the 12th?
I have it on the 12th as my calendar.
Oh, okay. I thought it was right after the ladies' night out, so that's where I had missed.
No, it has in the past.
It has in the past?
Yeah.
Didn't they move ladies' night out though?
This is who's on first.
Okay.
Okay, who's on first? So the bottom line is then the 5K run is on the 12th.
Correct.
Okay, that's unfortunate. I thought I had an extra audience for you. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to announce on May 5th, and I know I have this one right, is the spring cleanup day for the township. So if anybody has any large items, understand that all of you that live in the village, that's also considered the township. So mattresses and stuff like that can be taken over to Nakva Station on Grange Hall Road on May 5th on that one as well. And then the other thing to mention is the Chamber of Commerce is doing well. We have a full board now. Those meeting dates are changed to the third Wednesday of the month going forward. And as I had said at the Chamber breakfast, we are well on our way to our goal of 100 members for the 100th anniversary of the Holly Area Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll go to reports.
Thank you again, George, for that opportunity. I just have just three things real briefly. So previously, as you know, Council had authorized staff to put in an offer of $200,000 for the purchase of 414 North Saginaw. An order was filed with the bankruptcy court to award that offer or accept it from the village. However, there's a stipulation in the bankruptcy law which requires that they then post it for a period of time, I believe it's 5 days, for other persons to make an offer if they choose to. Just because they make an offer does not mean that the court has to accept it if they feel that a prior offer is a better use of the property. So we have not been informed one way or the other, but we have not been informed that there was another offer. So I think we should hear any day now what is going to happen with that or get some final word.
When is that 5-day window going on right now?
I think it's this week, yes.
Oh,
So the next thing I have is I spoke to the DDA board last night at their meeting, and staff has been fielding requests or questions for a number of months, probably over a year, about the service of alcohol outside. And so currently the village has an outdoor seating ordinance, a cafe ordinance, which allows for businesses to place tables, chairs, umbrellas, different things on the sidewalks. However, it does not allow for the service or sale of beer, wine, or other alcohol. And so we have scheduled a public hearing in front of the Planning Commission at the end of this month, the 25th of April. And so there will be a public hearing at that time to receive comment from the public. We also will introduce to the Planning Commission a text amendment to the ordinance, which simply will remove that section of the ordinance that says that the sale of beer, wine, or alcohol is prohibited, and we will replace that with those sales may take, I'm just paraphrasing, yes, that those sales would be permitted with council authorization. And I think what that does is that allows us to have some local control. And so there really will be limited areas in the village that, for businesses that would be eligible for this anyways, because under our current zoning, and I think it's a a good portion of it that we would have to maintain, calls for 5 feet of clearance for pedestrians. And so if you think then of areas where somebody could put tables, chairs, and in order to comply with the Liquor Control Commission fencing around a service or sale area, you're then talking about the corners of Saginaw and Maple on both corners. You're talking about both corners at Battle Alley in South Saginaw, both corners at Civic in South Saginaw, and then at Junction in South Saginaw. And that's areas where the sidewalks jut out and were previously done during some landscape and streetscape improvements in those areas. So those will be in front of the Planning Commission on April 25th. If the Planning Commission recommends that that text amendment be authorized to council, it will then be placed on your next council agenda for your consideration. The last item that I have is we have finally received clearance from Oakland County, who coordinates our CDBG program, to let the contract for demolition of the car wash. So it has been a long, arduous process, much longer than it would have been had we not used CDBG funds. But the bottom line is we saved about $30,000 by the time we're done with environmental testing, which they paid for, asbestos testing, which they paid for, and then demolition. So we saved over $30,000 by going through this process. So whatever money we lost over the last year in tax revenue, we gained through not having to pay for those other costs. And so we're still going to come out in the black on that process, but we will be sending out letters to all the companies who bid, and then scheduling meeting with the winning bidder, the selected bidder, which was Bruce Lau, to schedule a date to commence. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Ms. Bigger, anything to report?
Nothing really this week. Still just working on budget, which feels like around the clock. But I will have a draft of the recommended budget for you by the time we have our study session on May 1st.
Thank you. Boards and commissions? Any reports to offer?
I have none.
Parks, we had a productive meeting. We were approached by Mark, and I'm forgetting his last name again, from Chaos Volleyball. Thank you, Metzler. About the location of the sand volleyball courts that he'd like to construct at Cyclone. He wants to put them at the southwest corner near the flag, in kind of the same area as where the flagpole was put up, that corner of the park. So he submitted some general guidelines as to how he wants to construct them. Parks Commission unanimously approved the location of them. The plan is to build 3 to 4 courts. It kind of depends on the pricing that he gets and the budget that he has for the construction. So he's gonna, when he decides he's gonna move forward with that, I'll have him contact Brian from the DVW. You can kind of coordinate with Brian and make sure that's where he's putting them is kosher with the village. We have the Blue Cat Band is going to be at Music in the Park on June 9th from 5 to 7. If you like blues, they are a great band. I fell in love with them as soon as I heard their music on the website. And then also we talked about the Keepers of the Shiawassee have an annual event called Riverfest, where they have vendors and events and fishing contests and kayaking events and races. And it's a day-long event that they hold in June or July of every year, and they're interested in bringing it to Waterworks Park in Holly next year. So we were discussing the things that we're going to need to do to prepare Waterworks Park for that. Dave and I are going to the Keepers meeting Thursday this week, I think, to put that proposal in front of them, the Keepers of the Shiawassee, at their monthly meeting. And that was all for Parks.
Thank you.
Nothing on zoning board.
Nothing on personnel or finance.
We had a community center meeting previous to the council meeting. which Chairman Mishler did a wonderful job presenting. Thank you.
Planning Commission just did a small, ordinance update that we'll be bringing before council with, I believe it already came to council one time and got kicked back just because of a procedural issue about the mixed development uses with residential offices in a house. So it's just kind of updating the ordinance to kind of make sure that we're in compliance with everybody and not contradicting ourselves. So other than that, there was no new business or new businesses on the agenda that time.
Thank you. Council comments. Ryan?
None.
Chris?
Nothing further.
Bob? None. Dave?
Yeah, a couple things. This is the third week in a row the attorney has not been here. I'm getting a little leery of having him gone so much. So can we send him a love letter and ask him to come back?
Yeah, so actually he was not scheduled to be here tonight.
Yeah.
He was scheduled to be here last week. He was on vacation, and he did not notify us that he was out of town, but he was out of town.
Gotcha. Okay.
Do we have to make a motion to excuse the
Not
attorney?
tonight,
No,
because he was
it was on consent
It's
tonight.
on the consent.
This is just the third week in a row, so that's the only thing.
Okay, I guess didn't see it under the consent, I guess.
Debbie, do we plan on doing one of those low-cost vaccinations for the pets again this year?
Yes, the fire department is planning it. I want to say it's May 5th, but I could be wrong.
Gotcha.
They were going to get me flyers to put out,
Okay.
but I have not received them yet.
Okay. Just curious.
But they have it scheduled.
I mean, that thing was well attended last time. There
Yeah,
was tons of people there.
Through
I mean,
Brianna, and
hundreds total, I would say.
she told me when, and she was going to get me some flyers to put out so that I could put it on the sign and on the website, but I haven't gotten them yet.
Gotcha. Okay.
I will contact her again and see if she has the flyers ready.
Okay. No worries. If it's in the planning stage, it's fantastic.
Yep,
That's
it
all.
is, and
No big deal.
the vet is already scheduled. They were waiting for a new price list from her to make sure everything stayed the same.
Awesome. Great. Waterworks update. The 6 month is up at the end of May, so next month they're giving an update. And that's the end of the 6 months where we should be making a decision to either continue or demo the building. So far, there's been no money committed, there's no official plan, and we have seen no plans presented to planning or anything either. So I'm curious, in the 5 months, we haven't got anything done. What are we going to see in the next 30 days? Keep that in the back of your guys' mind. Also, for budgetary stuff, Planning Commission, they are unanimous in saying that they wanted to redo the master plan. It's not in the typical schedule. I don't know if it's budgeted this year, but I want to pull any strings we can to get that done. We're ready to commit to it, put in the time and effort, make sure it, coincides with the charrette that was done, and we've been missing out. Dollar Tree, I think, was one of the missed opportunities we had to change our actual look and feel on Saginaw and having the buildings towards the street and the parking in the rear. We were unable to update our ordinances to do that, so we couldn't say no at that point for those kinds of things. So I think planning has some zeal to get that done, and we need to back them up on that. So they want to redo it. It has not been a full redo. I don't even know. I would say early 2000s at best.
I was thinking that the last one was done in 2001.
Yeah, so that's, and then also the village website, we've all moaned and groaned about it. We need to make sure that it's in the budget this year. It needs to come off of the servers that it's currently in. We've had serious issues with people accessing it and getting relinked to adult websites in the past. So we need to make sure that our security is high, and I've heard from a few different IT guys that can do sort of that thing. They're looking on the back side of it saying we're not secure, and it's not user-friendly, I would say, for a lot of people, nor is it mobile-friendly, so I think that we need to spend some money there as well.
Yeah, there's a couple of things I tried accessing on it, and it doesn't even, it says, like, not found, link not found.
Yeah.
Do a few other things that I can't even pull up on the website, so it definitely needs to
If there's an
rehab.
issue with that, Debbie and company and those in the office can fix the dead links, but I think a redo is definitely needed as far as user interface, security of the website, amongst a few other things. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Suzanne?
No further comment?
Deborah?
Nothing to add.
I have nothing to offer. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Public.
7:49.
We are adjourned.
smoothly without John here.
I know.